last lesson, we learned about the concept of protection and restoration through the relevant laws and regulations of the international community on the protection of cultural heritage, and also learned through the evolution of the concept that the concept of international cultural heritage protection has gradually developed with the progress of the times. Now, let's have an in-depth understanding of when the concept of historical building protection began to receive attention and how to carry out the protection work. Let's start the second section of this chapter, the study of the origin of protection and restoration of European historic buildings. The conscious protection of historic buildings comes from the West, mainly from several representative countries in Europe. But this protection consciousness also takes a long time, roughly went through 3 stages. Early stage, in the early 18th century, historic buildings were protected for religious significance or specific values. In Rome, for example, many of its monuments were preserved in the name of Christ. The Pantheon's original history dates back to the Roman Republic in 27 BC, burned down by the fire in 80 BC, and was rebuilt by the architecturally loving Emperor Hadrian in 125 AD. This concept continued beyond the 14th century. By the late Renaissance of the 17th century, the appreciation of architectural art became a social fashion when people began to pay attention to the artistic value of old buildings, but only to keep the image of ancient architecture as much as possible. At the beginning of the 18th century, due to the urgent political need of the new bourgeoisie in Europe, the interest in ancient Greek and ancient Roman architecture rose to an unprecedented level in seeking ideological resonance from the historical style of the past. From the 1860s to the 19th century, the popularity of the retro thought in Western architecture led to an archaeological upsurge in Europe, including the discovery of Pompeii and the excavation of the tomb of ancient Egyptian pharaoh, which also led to the recognition of the spiritual and cultural value of the architectural heritage. Reason 1. The Industrial Revolution has revolutionized the social productive forces, and new building materials and crafts have appeared, replacing the old construction methods, and new functions and building types have appeared. Many ancient architectural techniques and ancient architectural styles become stone history books. These historical buildings gradually receive people's attention, and their values are recognized. At the same time, the technical means can make the production achieve the technology of repairing old as old, replacing new as new. Reason 2. Because of the environmental pollution caused by the Industrial Revolution, the social environmental protection movement appeared directly. The environmental protection movement made people re-examine their own behavior and review the historical reference function to today. Under such social background, a large number of historic building restoration and design practices appeared in Europe in the early 19th century, and the Western historical architecture protection thought gradually formed. In 1837, France first established the Historical Heritage Commission, the authoritative body for the restoration of cultural relics. In the middle of 19th century, the British anti-restoration movement, and in the second half of 19th century, to the beginning of 20th century, the emergence of Italian school, the Western historic building protection thought, basically formed. This is the origin and development of the protection and restoration of European historic buildings. In the next section, we will discuss in detail the major development of the protection of historical buildings in the world.